Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. We want to talk a little bit today about Adam Peters, who got his second interview. So the Giants will be interviewing Ryan Poles, or already did today, this morning, Joe Shane yesterday, and then Adam Peters on Thursday. So a couple of phenomenal candidates. They could add Joe Ortiz or another guy to the list. And then we also want to add on Mel Kiper's latest mock draft and talk about for a couple minutes the two players that he has the Giants taking in the first round with the 5th and 7th overall pick. Some interesting guys there. I think one of them you'll be very happy about. The other one you may have a little bit of concern of. But Anthony, before we dive into the good stuff, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing quite well. Super excited by the addition of Adam Peters into the second round of candidate interviews for the Giants general manager position. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Adam Peters. If I had to pick who my number one candidate choice is out of all of the general manager candidates, it is Adam Peters. Now, it's a very close race for me. It's like 1A, 1B, 1C, with 1A being Peters, 1B being Joe Shane, who's already done his second interview, 1C being Joe Ortiz. But honestly, you could call it a 1D with Ryan Poles as well. I really like him. So really all of the guys that are coming back for a second interview, I'm a huge fan of. I think that the Giants are doing a phenomenal job being very thorough within their evaluations of these general manager candidates. And I'm super excited. And then, of course, talking about this mock draft season. I love the draft, and everybody who's been watching this channel for the past couple of years knows that I love the draft. I love doing film breakdowns, and probably both of the players that we're going to mention in this, I will do film breakdowns on at some point during this off season before we get to April. So stay tuned to all that, and it's going to be really exciting. I love the draft season, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see who is making these draft selections for the Giants in April.
Absolutely. I mean, look, just to hit on Adam Peters for a second. He's getting that second interview. I think that's a huge win for the Giants. And Jordan Raanan of ESPN reported today that the Giants, in fact, are giving carte blanche to the general manager candidate, whichever one they choose, to fully overhaul this freaking team, the organization on the back end. Joe Judge kept saying that things are happening behind the scenes, blah, blah, blah. It was bullshit the whole time because now they're finally giving a GM the opportunity to overhaul the back end, set a new standard, and really get rid of the rats, man. Get rid of the weeds. And I think that that's going to be a big thing. There's going to be a lot of maneuvering and movement behind the scenes for the Giants, whether we hear about it or not. Whatever general manager comes in here, it's going to be a freaking bloodbath for some of those guys. So hopefully they can turn things around, put in place a system that's going to work as a long-term solution. And it's going to take a little bit of time for it to come to fruition and a little bit of time for it to be established. But as long as we get in the right direction, we start to modernize this thing. I'm really excited about that. I think Adam Peters would be a good guy to absolutely turn the page and get out of the abyss that we're currently in. Anthony, I don't know if you have anything to say about that, or you want to move on to the draft picks that Mel Kiper has for us.
We can move right into the draft picks, but I'll say real quickly on Adam Peters, his talent evaluation is what makes him the number one candidate in my eyes. I mean, he knows how to find draft gems, and for me personally, that's what the Giants need most. More than anything, they need to find the guy who can find those talents in the middle rounds and always hit on those early round picks. Just be good at drafting, because the Giants have struggled in their drafts for years now. So Adam Peters, I feel like, would fix that almost instantaneously.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a phenomenal candidate, that's for sure. So let's move over to Mel Kiper's mock draft for you guys. There'll be a lot of mock drafts all offseason. We'll be doing a ton of different combinations and talking about where the Giants could go. It's going to be really exciting since we have 2 top 7 picks. Really, really cool there. The first guy off the board, Ikem Ekwonu out of NC State. The Giants need offensive line talent. 99% of you guys are saying, let's go with Ikem or Evan Neal, and let's go get Tyler Linderbaum right after that. Let's overhaul this offensive line, bring 2 high-end rookies in here to help overhaul this thing. And on one side, I agree with you. On the other side, I also realized the Giants didn't have a good pass rush last year. In fact, it was awful at times. I love Azeez Ojulari. He's a great player. And the thing about the Giants now, whatever head coach they bring in is going to have to maintain a 3-4 base system on the defensive side. Our personnel is so ingrained in the 3-4. If they were to switch over to the 4-3, it would be a freaking bloodbath in terms of trading and cutting and getting rid of guys or transitioning them to different positions. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. So I believe they will stick with the 3-4. And if that is the case, Mel Kiper also goes with Michigan standout pass rusher David Ojabo. And I think that he is a really, really high-end pass rusher, similar to Azeez Ojulari, but even more talented coming out of Michigan. Of course, Aiden Hutchinson gets all the attention over there, but Ojabo is as clear-cut as a pass rusher as you can find, right? He is an absolute stud, man. He is The only flaw he has is in the run game. That's his level. That's his improvement category. He needs to become better in the run game, but he has really great counters. He has a couple of high-end pass rush moves coming out of college. Great speed off the line of scrimmage. Solid hand counters, length. If you go check out, there's many different websites that have analytical reports and analyst reports regarding Ojabo. We will do a film breakdown, of course, this upcoming off season. But he really fits that 3-4 outside rush linebacker kind of system really nicely. And I think he'd be a perfect option to pair with Azeez Ojulari on the opposite side of that offensive line, or rather defensive line. So if you go out and you get Ekwonu, you get an Ojabo, you have two guys coming in here. Every great team in the NFL has two things: great pass rush and a great offensive line. If you go into the draft and land one of each, that's a home run. Even if you want two offensive linemen, that's a great takeaway. I will say this: the difference between the top four offensive line and the rest of the offensive line talent in this draft, there's a big talent disparity. So if the Giants want to get top tier offensive line talent, it's got to be with those two first round picks. Otherwise, they're going to be taking shots at guys who may or may not pan out. Of course, those top guys could not pan out as well, but they have a higher probability of panning out, is what I'm trying to say, Anthony. So when you're looking at Mel Kiper's mock draft, how intrigued are you by Ekwonu and Ojabo as the two guys the Giants walk away with those two first round picks?
Yeah, I think these are two super interesting names that are out there. And what's most interesting is the two positions. Now, you said it best. The best teams in the NFL win with a good pass rush and a good offensive line. And that's absolutely true. And that's something that the Giants, they don't have either one of those things. They don't have a good offensive line and they don't have a good pass rush. And that's why the Giants are a bad football team. Now, this first round mock draft does a lot for the Giants in that regard. I mean, it basically, you're gaining so much young talent at both of the most important positional needs for the Giants right off the bat. And then that sets you up because the Giants have a bunch of middle round draft picks. Hopefully the guy using those picks is a lot better at finding middle round talent. That sets you up. You get those two biggest needs solved early on, and you have a lot of flexibility for the rest of the draft. Now, I will say about Mel Kiper here, his evaluation of the Giants defense is a little peculiar. He said the Giants have some solid options on defense, but it's fair to say they underperformed as a unit in 2021. I disagree with that. I don't think that they underperformed as a unit. I think that they did absolutely the best that they could, considering the offense that was basically just falling off of the field every 2 seconds during the second half of the season for the Giants. I thought the Giants defense did a really good job, but it is true. The Giants pass rush did underperform. That's absolutely true. I mean, not that we expected them to be so stellar, but they just weren't that good from a pass rushing standpoint this year, like they haven't been in recent years. Azeez Ojulari flashed a lot of potential, though, and Mel Kiper does mention that in this article, because Azeez Ojulari is a guy that I was really high on. He's been doing a really tremendous job developing in his rookie season. And I think that if you pair another young edge rusher across the line of scrimmage or across the offensive line with Azeez Ojulari, you're talking about setting your Giants defense up for a lot of pass rushing success over the next few years. Not sure if David Ojabo is the top target for me at number 7, but I am intrigued by this. I think that it's a good idea, especially when you're going with a versatile offensive lineman at number 5, like Ekwonu, because he has experience playing both guard and offensive tackle. Assuming from this mock draft, he would be a right tackle here. Mel Kiper mentions that he has all-pro potential, but he does have the guard experience, which is always good for offensive linemen, because if you're taking somebody as a tackle, you always have that safety net, right? If they don't succeed as a tackle, give it a year or two, and then you can move them over to guard, and who knows, maybe they have like a revitalized career once they make the position switch. So I really like Ekwonu. I think that's somebody that the Giants are going to consider pretty heavily once we get to April. And overall, I'm pretty pleased with this first round mock draft for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I will kind of counter your perspective that the Giants didn't underperform. I would say that the only reason I think they underperform is because Patrick Graham tried to get a little bit too, I guess, egotistical with his calling. The first couple of games ran a lot of man coverage, relied on cover one a lot. I think that was more of coaching than player effort and personnel and stuff. So maybe not a counter, but maybe more of another layer to the onion of the Giants. But ultimately, like you said, Ekwonu is a good player, arguably a great player. He is going to be a phenomenal pass blocker, and that's really what the Giants need. And I will present this argument before we sign off here, is that the Giants ultimately need a lot more help on offense than they need on defense. So it's very, very easy to justify taking Ekwonu and Tyler Linderbaum back to back in 5 and 7. Very easy to justify, because if the Giants offensive line doesn't take a step forward, and you know what? Let me lay this out even easier for you. The main reason the Giants should take Tyler Linderbaum and should take Ekwonu with the fifth and seventh pick is because it takes about a year for rookie offensive linemen, for young offensive linemen to get adjusted to the NFL. Look at Andrew Thomas. He's a perfect example of that. If they can take that jump in the second year, it's the perfect opportunity to inject a young quarterback into the system. That is my main argument for going out and getting two offensive linemen in the first 7 picks, because ultimately, if you're building the team to be strong enough to maintain and help develop a young quarterback that the Giants failed to do with Daniel Jones, you got to go out and get your offensive linemen. You got to give them time to gel and gain experience and chemistry before getting the young quarterback. So I think that is the primary argument you have to make when it comes to a Linderbaum and Ekwonu pairing with those 2 first-round picks, Anthony. Would you disagree with that?
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that's a solid evaluation of the Giants situation here going into this draft. Of course, you know how I feel about Tyler Linderbaum. I love him as a prospect. I don't think that it's too early to take, Tyler Linderbaum in the top 10. You can argue it's too early to take a center in the top 10, but Tyler Linderbaum is just different. All right. He's built different. He's a tremendous talent, an elite talent. And I do think there's a chance we walk away 1 year after this NFL draft class and Tyler Linderbaum has the best rookie season out of anybody in it, right? Like Rashawn Slater arguably had the best rookie season out of all of the rookies in this year's class, and he fell outside of the top 10 because people had, concerns about his arm length and because he might have to be a guard, and you don't take guards in the top 10. Okay, well, if you do that same school of thought with Tyler Linderbaum, one of these teams in the top 10 that really needs an interior offensive lineman is going to let Tyler Linderbaum fall down the board and into somebody's laps, and they're gonna really feel like they missed out, because that's how I feel about Tyler Linderbaum. Tremendous talent, and I do think he's worth a top 10 selection.
Absolutely, guys. Well, let us know what you guys think of Mel Kiper's first mock draft of the year, Ekwonu and Ojabo, and what you think about taking Ekwonu and Tyler Linderbaum. I think the argument I made makes a lot of sense personally. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your opinion on it if you disagree and why. Make sure to hit up the YouTube comments for that, as always, my friends, and make sure to hit like and subscribe. Really appreciate all the love lately. Tons of content every day. As you know, we don't miss a day of creating content for you guys, so you can expect that. And throughout the offseason, tons of player evals. We're going to try to get as many players as we can on here so you can learn more about the prospects, as we tried to do last year. We got Quinn Miners, who ended up starting for Denver last season. Tay Gowan, who ends up with the Eagles. We don't talk to him anymore. But ultimately, I love you guys a lot. I love all the appreciation and the support you guys have offered. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.